Ah, sunrise in Mexico. A lot better than freezing ass cold Seattle. Especially because it's locked down and everything is just gross and everybody's burning everything down. And yeah, I'm kind of glad to be here. I went to the hospital yesterday for my hypertherapy, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. They sedated me and then basically put me through the whole process. And I was kind of semi-aware for pretty much all of it. And you know, I had the mask, ether mask on and whatnot. And basically, they say they brought me up to 112 degrees. So, geez, but man, I woke up. I never went to sleep, but the doctors put everything away, and my voice is a little funny, but that's the only result, you know. But man, I felt like $1 million afterwards. A little groggy, and once the meds wore off, geez, I was fine. They had to patch into my chest, you know, a big vein in my chest to do a lot the blood heating, and apparently that goes right to your liver, so that's mission accomplished. They also dumped in some low dose chemo, so it was good that I went there fasted and stayed fasted for most of the day afterward. Even though they were offering me some rather pathetic hospital food, I said, nah, it's okay. And then around 1, I was feeling, you know, recovered, you know. So I wanted to go back to the hotel because it's so much more comfortable than the hospital room. Even though for a hospital room it wasn't bad, but I see no reason to sit there uncomfortably, you know, and being uncomfortable and probably having insomnia overnight when I can come back here and be comfortable and enjoy my life, you know. And so I called the doctors, you know, at the cancer center, and well, the secretary, whatever, and she hemmed and hawed and said the doctors were informed, and then I said, okay, well, no answer, and then let it hang for an answer. The idea, I think, for her was to, and the doctors, to just let the time expire till they all went home, and then I would be stuck there, right? But that's not how I work. You see, when you're a MGTOW, you do things differently. You look at the world, everything in the world, and you look at what makes sense, and you look at what doesn't make sense, and you flip the bird to the things that don't make sense, and you work on and build the things that make sense, right? So basically I said, okay, well, not a real answer, so I'm getting dressed and I'm going to check out, right? And then that put a time limit on her, right? So she got back and said, the doctors will be there in an hour to discuss it with you, right? And then I said, okay. And then gave her an hour. And I said, okay, time's up. I'm checking out. And I had to sign the exit form from the hospital and all that. And went across the street to the cancer center and picked up my lunches and whatnot. And they were like, oh my goodness, how could you do such a thing? And but the thing is, if they are going to hem and haw me to death, right, and not give me any answers, then the authority for the answers defaults back to me, right? That's when I make the decision, and I made the decision. So I checked out, went across the street, picked up my cancer food, and then the doctors were there, and suddenly they were there to discuss it with me. Even though right across the street, I was right there, and they didn't have time for me. But once I took the decision and probably the liability out of their hands, then they were willing to talk. They were saying, you're the first person who stood up and walked out before, overnight. Most people are like probably slammed from all their chemo they've probably been taking full strength for years or whatever. And the fact that, so many people are in so much worse shape than I am. And they were saying they were surprised that I felt well enough to walk out. Then they started talking about how it was a pretty major attachment to a major vein, and that if I have any problems at all or anything, give them a call, So I will. I decided, I would do that. And then instead of walking home, I just took an Uber, because it just doesn't, no point in pushing things, And then I had a very pleasant evening here in the hotel room, and surfed the internet and studied some Spanish and went to bed early, got up really early, and did some more of all that. And now it's the morning. I'm going to roll around and start doing the getting ready for another day at the cancer center. And I've got like 3 or 4 days left. My last day is on Saturday. And then I'm going to extend my stay here at the hotel for another week. And then I'm going to look into getting a visa, arranging air travel to Guadalajara, and making the trip in the lowest stress, most relaxed way I can, right? When you're dealing with the whole cancer thing, it's wise to limit your stress as much as possible. But the only 2 problems I have from the hypertherapy is where they attempted to get a urine catheter past my prostate, and I'm 55 years old, and prostates get pretty restricted at this age, and they just couldn't do it, right? And I was so sedated, I couldn't really tell them that they should instead try to use a catheter designed for like a 10-year-old or something, because what they're trying to use would not fit me. So, but anyway, so there's a little soreness, and I got a little blood from their attempt, and they never managed to do it. So, so they just sort of stuck this little bottle underneath, where I would take a leak, right? And went on with the thing, but I didn't even need it. But boy, for the last, 7 or 8 times I've taken a leak. You take a leak a lot when you're 55. That just comes with the territory. It comes with surviving as long as I have, and basically that's just comes with the territory. So basically, I had a great evening, and I wanted to discuss briefly a video that Zeitgeist Eater made. That guy is a friggin' brilliant scientist type, and a lot of his creativity is in things, in fact, almost entirely in things that 95% of people just can't understand. It's like he was talking about changing a line of code for the customers to fix a problem because half of their machines wouldn't do, they weren't like the test machines in his lab, I guess. And then he had all kinds of problems. He fixed the one line of code, and yet the customers were still PO'd at him because he couldn't predict the future, basically. So, and he talks about how, being a coder for a living is pretty arduous, and I can understand, and not very rewarding, at least amongst normies. When I am fairly intelligent and fairly outside of the norm, but man, I can only barely even theorize about what it's like to be somebody like him, somebody who's, what I specialize in, heavy diesel truck repair. When a truck is working and it's fixed, it comes in on the hook and it leaves under its own power, I can point to it and say, I did that, and normies can understand it. And so I guess I'm close enough to being a normie that the things that I do can be appreciated by normies. But man, when you get that far out, when you get that far into things like coding and things that are like that dramatically different from what normies can deal with, any kind of compensation in respect and whatnot can't come because they simply just cannot understand what you do. And what you do, you fix their problems, but man, I can really understand why that would be a real tough row to hoe. And I respect that he can do that, and he's also talking about why he does the MGTOW content and manosphere stuff, and and he gave, so many psychological scientific terms for the type of psychological reasons people would have for making MGTOW content, and a lot of it is just went right over the head of my diesel mechanic ass. And I can get what he's saying, but a lot of the words that he was saying just went over my head, We have some of our brothers, those who can spot, what the hazards of living in a blue pill society and taking action and doing things like avoiding marriage. It takes, some significant brain power to see it all before it actually happens to you, right? And that he is one of those guys who can, see and understand so many things that I cannot. That, man, I gotta salute the guy because he is going on paths and roadways and things places where I just can't follow. I can say well done for following that path, but there's no way I can do what he does. Perhaps I would have been different if I hadn't had my skull smashed in back in first grade, but couldn't even learn to read until I hit fourth grade. But But man, that was tough. But man, what he must be going through has got to be pretty darn rough. And I can only understand a little bit of what he's even talking about. So yeah. And here I thought I was a smart guy. So basically I'm going to link to his video, and then I'm going to get ready for another day at the cancer center, and I think I might walk there, even though it might shock all the doctors. Because I should, apparently, according to them, I should still be in the hospital. But, you know, when other people hem and haw and try to place something on you that just doesn't make sense, right? Or doesn't appear to make sense, and then they won't even show up to discuss it with you, then the decision becomes yours. So that's when you make the decision, and whatever the consequences are, you know. Then, of course, retroactively, they tried to talk me out of it. But the deed was done. I had my bag of cancer food, and I took that Uber home. Well, this is home away from home, and it sure feels like home compared to the hospital. And let the chips fall where they may, you know. But, you know, sometimes a guy has got to see bullshit, right? Or what appears to be bullshit, discuss it, access the sources, mull it over, think about it, and then whatever available interactions you have to discuss it, then you can do so. And then you have to make a decision, you know, which I did. And the result was I had a very pleasant evening, very pleasant night's sleep in a bed that I'm used to sleeping in, and no insomnia, you know. And the hospital beds are thin and watertight, you know, because they want to be able to clean them up really easy. So I would be, if I went to sleep and my body got a little warm, it can sometimes sweat, right? And then that sweat would be trapped between me and the mattress. It's just not conducive for a good night's sleep. So yeah, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I walked out of there. Glad I took the decision. And so yeah, now I'm going to link to Zeitgeist Eaters video and get ready for another day at the cancer center. Got my IV catheter in so they don't have to be poking around. I used to have bigger veins back when I was a actively working heavy diesel truck mechanic, and everybody say, wow, the veins are right there, no problem, you know. But after a year of fasting, or 18 months of fasting and working on the cancer and stuff, my arms have shrank and my veins are harder to reach. So, oh well, at least I'm still alive. That's about all I got for you, MGTOWs. Have an awesome day. Enjoy the MGTOW lifestyle. Really, really look at all the benefits that the lifestyle has brought to you, and look at incrementally how your life is improving. Don't compare your life to somebody else, as Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, always says. Look at what your life was before and what it was like a month ago. Track the ways that your life improves incrementally as you build your life and make it better. And then that is just a recipe to put a smile on your face. Every time you incrementally improve your life, it just, you know, that is yours. It comes back in and it starts paying dividends, and everything gets better. And of course, when you reach older age like myself, shit starts falling apart. And that's why I'm calling back. I'm a forward scout, calling back to our MGTOW brothers. This is what it's like farther down the MGTOW path. This is the freedom, peace, and prosperity you gain from MGTOW. But as you get older, there are hazards. There are problems you run into, and as I encounter them and weave my way through all of the hazards of being 55 and on, then I report back and tell everybody what I've encountered so that they can look and see if they might be about to fall into the same trap, and they can steer their way around it and avoid the problems. And man, and so many people have already said that I've helped in that way. So man, I couldn't be more happy and more content. And that's the reason I make videos. Everybody who does make videos on this subject has to determine what the real reason is for them doing it, you know? Does it pay them back in some way? And for me, it pays me back when my brothers do well, and men, and especially my my brothers who listen to my ramblings about Bitcoin and whatnot back in 2015, and some of them are retired now, and not all of them are old. A lot of them are in their like 30s and 40s, and they're free to go anywhere and do anything they want. Free to if the crazy lefties are burning their city down, they can go elsewhere. They can pack up their shit and go, and they can fly anywhere. Man, it's amazing, and there are people on that course now. I'm expecting, as I was saying, at least a 20x from here, you know, about $300,000 by the end of, like within 18 months or so. And man, they're going to do well. And I am grateful for it. I am so grateful that so many of our brothers listened and benefited. But not just in MGTOW, you know, not just in Bitcoin, just frugal lifestyle, calling BS on the things that doesn't make sense. Okay, I better get out of here. Have a great day, MGTOWs, and don't get married.